You ever wonder what's really going on inside your own head? I mean, what's actually happening in there? Well, today we're going to dive into Steven Johnson's Mind Wide Open. It's a book that's all about using the tools of modern neuroscience to get a fresh look at the oldest subject there is, ourselves. It's a pretty fascinating look in the mirror, so let's get into it.
So, the author, Steven Johnson, had this huge realization. And it didn't come after years of meditating on a mountaintop. Nope, it happened in just 30 minutes while he was hooked up to a biofeedback machine. He literally saw a part of his own personality reflected back at him, something he never knew existed. And the whole thing started with a simple joke.
All right, so picture this. Johnson's in a therapist's office. He's wired up to a monitor that's tracking his adrenaline levels in real time. He can actually watch his body's chemistry change with his thoughts.
For the first 5 minutes, nothing. Seriously, nothing. The line on the screen is just a flat, calm sea. His mind's quiet and his body chemistry is showing it. Total zen. But then he does something that's just total second nature for him, especially when things feel a little formal or awkward. He cracks a joke. It's just this little tick he's always had to try and lighten the mood.
And bam! Just like that, the reaction is insane. The monitor shows this massive spike in adrenaline, a huge surge from his fight-or-flight system, all triggered by a single punchline. It showed him this incredibly direct, powerful connection between his sense of humor and his body's chemistry.
And that's the light bulb moment. It just hits him. This wasn't some social quirk he had. It was a chemical habit. In a very real way, he was an adrenaline junkie, and his drug of choice was his own sense of humor. He was chasing a chemical high he never even knew he was hooked on.
So this one little personal discovery, it actually cracks open a much, much bigger idea about how all of our minds are built. It shows how a simple personal habit can point to a universal truth about the brain.
Okay, let me ask you something, and be honest. Have you ever heard some bad news about a rival? Someone you're friendly with on the surface, but secretly you're kind of competing with them, and for just a split second, you have to fight to keep yourself from smiling?
You are trying with all your might to put on a concerned face, but your mouth has totally different plans. It really makes you wonder, right? Who's actually driving the bus here? Whose mouth is it anyway?
Well, the answer gets us to one of the biggest ideas in the whole book, the modular brain. The idea here is that your brain isn't one single CEO in a corner office calling all the shots. It's more like a loud, chaotic committee meeting with a bunch of different specialists who all want different things.
And this really shows the gap between how we feel and what's actually going on. We feel like we're this single, unified I that's in control. But in reality, that I is just the result of a constant negotiation. One part of your brain, your voluntary motor cortex, is trying to look sympathetic, but another, more primitive part is just screaming with schadenfreude, that little thrill you get when something bad happens to someone else.
Johnson sums it all up with this absolutely perfect metaphor. Our mind isn't some neat, tidy office building. It's a chaotic, competitive, totally interconnected ecosystem. He just says it's a jungle in there.
So if our brain is a jungle full of competing parts, what language do they all speak? The answer is chemistry. It's all about the hormones and neurotransmitters that shape every single thing we experience. We've already met adrenaline, right? That's the fight or flight chemical. But there's also oxytocin, the hormone for social connection and caring. Johnson calls it the tend and befriend hormone. And then you've got endorphins, which are basically the brain's natural painkillers. You get those from a deep belly laugh or the high from a good workout. These chemicals aren't just abstract ideas, they are you.
And speaking of laughter, take a look at this number, 15%. What do you think that represents?
You're gonna love this. It turns out only about 15% of our laughter is actually a response to a joke. The other 85% of the time, laughter has nothing to do with humor. It's a primal neurochemical tool our brains evolved for social bonding. It's a way of saying, hey, we're on the same team. We're in this together. So this is all fascinating, but so what? What do we do with all this information? How does knowing about our modular brains and chemical cocktails actually help us? Well, this question brings us right to the core purpose of the book.
Johnson proposes this really cool idea he calls the long decay test. He says a truly valuable insight isn't just a fun fact you hear once and then forget. A truly transformative idea is one that sticks with you. It reverberates in your mind for weeks, and it actually fundamentally changes the way you see yourself and the world.
And that's exactly what neuroscience offers us. It's not just a bunch of data for scientists and lab coats. It is, as Johnson puts it, a new kind of mirror. It's a tool that reflects our own inner workings right back at us.
And this new mirror, it gives us a whole new language for self-knowledge. So instead of just saying, I have a weird feeling, you can start to recognize, oh, that's my amygdala firing off because of a past experience. Or, you know what? My jokes are really just me chasing that adrenaline rush. Now, this isn't about reducing ourselves to a sack of chemicals. It's about empowering ourselves with a more precise, more useful understanding of our own inner jungle.
Ultimately, this whole journey through brain science leads right back to one person, you. All these technologies and ideas in Mind Wide Open are just providing a new mirror for who you are. So the final question is, what do you see when you look into it? What does your reflection say?